Hello, everyone. So it's 3 a.m. here in Chihuahua, Mexico. I'm glad to be there with you online. This was originally going to be a video for you, but I prefer to uh, present live in a way to engage with you more and for you to be able to ask me questions after the presentation. So this brief presentation is titled Current and Upcoming Perspectives for Libraries and Librarians. So where I'm coming from, my perspective, and this is a short disclaimer, it's I first had experience in libraries working as a cataloger, and then more often as a reference librarian. But most often, I have worked with information literacy activities and initiatives. And I also have always worked within academic libraries. Sadly, I have no experience on national libraries. In academic libraries, well, we support learning, research, and that's all. Well, that's not all, of course, but the National Library does many other things, right? So there might be some limitations, understatements in my ideas given my own experiences. When looking at the changes that you are going to experience, that you are experiencing right now in the National Library, you may be asking yourselves, where are we going? And then I suggest that you ask yourselves, where do you want to go? And here I wanted to share with you this quotation that I translated and adapted from Spanish philosopher Jose Ortega y Gasset, who you might not be familiar with because his works are mainly in Spanish, and this work that I'm quoting here is originally in French. Let's read it. For determining the librarian's mission, we must start not from whom they are librarians, nor from an abstract ideal that pretends to define a library, but, emphasis mine, from the social need that your profession fulfills. Such needs, as everything human, is not fixed. Its essence is variable, shifting, evolutionary, historical. So, with that in mind, let's continue. So, a library is, and there you can see me in two libraries in Tallinn. The shots are very closed, but perhaps you can recognize the libraries. What is a library? Well, a library, of course, classically is a place. A place for what? To share, but at the same time, we should look at the library as an experience for our users. And what can they experience there? They may come with a need. They may come just wanting to check out some books, some materials, find out more about something. So we should provide a collection. And we are collectors, right? We are curators of collections. We have our own collections, and we also find some aid by subscribing digital collections and also using others' collections as a complement. We should set up services for our users, resources, services. We provide access. And any library will provide access to their resources, to their services, to their community of users. Here is the challenge with national libraries. Who are their users? Everyone, right? So we should cater to everyone, and we should provide everyone with access to our resources. And one of the nicest things about public libraries is that the access to the services, to the resources, to the collections is completely free, right? A library is also metadata. They have records, we have records properly described so they can be retrieved, but also think about resources in a way that they have to be enriched, right? Not only have the traditional metadata, perhaps offer translations, perhaps offer the full text, offer the links between different resources in the metadata. The library is also part of the culture. We are promoters of culture, and we also are community, and we have to drive and build community around the library. Libraries are also spaces for reading, for working, for studying, discovering, and being creative. We have a recent, well, relatively recent development in libraries with the so-called maker spaces. We have, of course, reading rooms. That is by default, right? The most common room in a library. We have also private study rooms, many different spaces that can enable different kinds of activities and interactions. When I give these types of presentations, I always want to highlight experiences from Colombia with the Medellin library parks. They are called in this way. These are public libraries that are located most often than not within slums, right? And they are part of Medellin, that is a city in Colombia. It's part of Medellin's answer for reconquering the spaces that were taken away by violence, by narco-traffic and organized crime. So these are very special libraries in the sense that they are, of course, classic public libraries because they have their collections, their services, but they also cater for to community activities, right? So perhaps they have a theater room where they exhibit plays, and they have reading and writing campaigns and so on and so forth. So we do a lot of activities. We provide access, we share, we provide interaction functions. We also support learning. We have our collections. We do preservation. That is important both in print, in physical media, and also for digital media. It's very important to provide preservation, to preserve materials. We developed the collections with many things in mind. Well, national libraries, of course, will develop their collection, keeping in mind to collect everything that is produced within the country, and then everything that is produced elsewhere, but also deals with topics about the country. And then comes everything else, right? That is what we could say about national libraries, but also to develop resources and services that are user-centered and also user-driven. And then we should strive for openness. Openness and everything that I put here, for what? Or on what? What are we sharing? What are we providing with our collection? Information, documents? Well, we should think about these concepts that are already very fuzzy in a very open way. Of course, the classical object is the book, But then there are many other different things that we can collect. For instance, I would love to see in the Estonian library catalog or in the website some folk tales collected and perhaps with English subtitles. These are materials that perhaps they have not been printed, but they can be available in audiovisual format. A library should also be social beyond its walls. And I mostly refer with this, with the opportunities that social media open for us. The opportunity for the library to have a social online presence, to increase its visibility, to draw attention from their community of users and also potential users. If we have a good presence online in social media, then people might improve their perception of the library. And we want to, for users to perceive us as a very useful stakeholder in society, right? We can also provide here alternative and homemade resources. We have vast collections. Well, we can start producing some content about the collection we have, so you know what's here, what we have here. This way we develop our image, we get closer to users, and we can start engaging more with them. So the second part, let's talk a little bit about the librarian. What we do, we try to promote reading and writing. That is at the center point of our endeavors, right? Increase the use of information resources. We want people to use our resources. If they are not used, perhaps they are not so valuable, right? Or perhaps we have not done enough promotion of them. We want to foster critical thinking. If people read and write more, then they can start to make more informed decisions, to start thinking critically. Also, we want to contribute to education and research, to build or develop independent users, and to build community around the library. So we are a link between users and resources or services. And we are talking here about different ecosystems, technological ecosystems, information and publishing ecosystems. We know about them, we manage ourselves very well within the systems, and we want everyone else to know them and manage themselves well within them. We can also see ourselves, and this is quite current idea, right? To have libraries and librarians serve as counterweights to the fake news and post-truths. We know very well how to identify reputable information, valid information, and good information in a general sense. We want everyone to identify it as well. We are recommenders. And online platforms are dominated by these platforms with the model of an all-you-can-eat model are dominating our online activities, right? And many are without many filters. And the famous or infamous algorithm is who makes recommendations. But people really appreciate personal recommendations, right? And we can make very good recommendations and have this role as a curator, as a selector, as a recommender, to be more prominent, right? People will come with a general need, with a general interest, and we have vast items in the collection. We can, of course, recommend where to start, where to go, what are the most important or relevant items for the user to check. See yourselves uh, as the book people in the Fahrenheit 451 novel, who were people who memorized books. So books will not be lost in this novel. Perhaps you know about it. We should also look ourselves as information and digital literacy advocates and practitioners. Information literacy, I think, is one of the most important activities that we can develop, because they bring us closer to users, to teach them to cope better with documents, with information systems, right? And to improve their practices with them. They are great opportunities for teaching, for learning, and for dynamizing the library. And here we find ourselves with the need of learning a little bit more about teaching and learning, because this is not something that we commonly learn in information science or library schools, right? Perhaps we know a little bit about it, but we find ourselves with the need of developing more our skills regarding education and teaching. We are detectives. And for me, this was one of the biggest compliments I could get from a user. I remember very well one time when a user came and I solved his information need, and he said, "Oh, you look more like a detective. We make sense of information. We find the right item with having very little clues about what the user is looking for. And we also are very good at assessing reputability of an information resource." Some skills and traits, of course, this is not an exhaustive list, that we should have, of course, classical things like information management with physical media, with digital media, technological competences, content creation. If we want the library to be more social, in the sense that we are developing a social media presence, well, we should learn how to develop, how to create the content that can be attractive for users. We can create text content, text-based content, and images or audiovisual content about the library, about the collection, about our services, to increase our reach, right? And our engagement with users. Of course, I told you about already education skills, learning and teaching, communication skills, and we are commonly a profession where we are, and I include myself, we are more introverts, right? But if we want to increase our reach, increase the engagement with our community of users and build community, we have to think how to develop better communication skills, either on social media, in person, right? In events. We also are very curious. We tend to be a very curious profession, right? When we don't know how to use an information system, well, let me check. When we find out about a new technology, well, let me check if I can learn it. If I can learn it, I can teach it, right? We should also see ourselves as storytellers, to tell the story of the library, to tell the story of the collection. We also need to be friendly with users. So, as a conclusion, some opportunities that we have: we must seek educational partners. Information literacy activities may widen our reach and may allow us to engage more with users. We should continue to promote reading, critical thinking, literacy, as well as communicating, disseminating, preserving, promoting, and provide access to and enrich national culture. Act upon librarians' collected experiences and observations. What I mean here is that it's a very good idea to take our activities and have a research vision. We collect data, we share data, we systematize our experiences as librarians with our users, and then we analyze it and we work together to share our experiences and use them to grow. We also have to look at bridging gaps in society. Well, Estonian literacy rate, the number is wonderful. Build and engage the user community. Dynamize the library. I wish you success with the upcoming changes, and I will be glad to take your questions. Aita.